Quakebot hit in 2 years ago in LA. Ken Swanke woke up in the morning on his machine and writing a news story about an earthquake. There's not many reporters went crazy and found out that actually computers are writing the news nowadays. And there's been a sort of lots of rewrites on this story, and it's all referred to the Quakebot. And of course, we can think about why would we have the robots running on keyboards, but that's sort of the illustrators going crazy. And this is when Paul said, robot journalism is about autonomous machines, and we maybe should prefer computational journalism, which is man-machine configurations. And I think if we could agree on not using robot journalism, I think this will be a great outcome from this meeting. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Is there any reason why we should use robot journalism? So it's about journalists should be in control, and obviously this points to a situation where journalists are not in control. So what is robot journalism? It's basically news from numbers, structured data, and Nick is going to speak much more about this. I hope I don't just sort of spoil your next hour party.
Come on.
So it's about news alerts and updates and automatic contacts with news sources, trend analysis, visualization of data, fact-checking, proofreading, and until full production of texts and whole publications and videos and stuff. And there's also machine-readable news, but that's sort of machines creating numbers from news. So that's another sort of ball game. And this is probably what is an algorithm. So we'll also talk about algorithm news. And this is maybe the most important algorithm at the moment, the Facebook algorithm, who makes us engaged with Facebook and sort of finds out what interests are and what our friends are doing and what sort of type of stories are interesting and how often they post the stories. And actually tomorrow, Steve S. Sharawi from Easy Insights is going to have a really interesting presentation of how he looks at the Facebook algorithm sort of in a re-engineering way. So I sort of engaged say nice to be there. So actually from a theoretical point of view, we're looking at the social construction of technology. I mean, we tend to look at technology as sort of a deterministic thing. I mean, it's there, it's been deployed, and we're just stuck with it. But this is, I mean, this context, social context. There's a newsroom. There are other people in the newsroom who are negotiating about what sort of technology to use, how to develop it. So I mean, looking at the social construction of technology, to me, is a sort of a basic way of getting into sort of the ideas about computational journalism. And this, what I've done is a study, interview-based study with news managers and tech people and journalists, industry experts in several countries, and to try to find out, picking their brains, how they perceive the future, what's going to happen, what's interesting, what is sort of, where's the story for algorithms in the news in the future. And it's going to be going on for a year now. And this you probably know, Shoshana Zuboff was the first female professor at Harvard in the early 1980s. She was an expert on automation in factories and offices. And she had 3 laws in her book from 1987, and this is the first one. Everything that can be automated will be automated. And as we know, this is not true, and not when it comes to journalism, because algorithms have been around in the newsroom for 3 decades, and there's still journalists in the newsroom. Okay, but in a way it makes sense because all the others have disappeared. The typesetters, I mean, people working in the dark room, everybody else is gone, it's just journalists left. And like Douglas Minnier spoke to the editor-in-chief a few weeks ago and said, we used to have 40 people designing news pages, now we have 15. And there's not much more to do. You need some sort of human interaction. This is the end. This is the low-hanging fruit has been picked already. So this is normal automation because you need people in the newsroom. So everything that can be automated has been automated, at least in this context. And this is There's been a lot of talk about robot journalism, and actually there's not much happening. The two companies in the US, Automated Insights in Durham, North Carolina, United Science in Chicago, Illinois, and that's the market for robot journalism in the US. In Europe, there's a few startups, maybe a dozen, a lot of experimenting, but nothing really has reached the market phase. So it's more talk than what's actually happening. And this is something which is confirmed in interviews with news managers in Nordic countries. They're thinking about it, yes, but not in the producing automated content sort of view, but in other ways, and I will come to that. So this is sort of Chris Hammond's way of explaining what is an algorithm for journalism, and it's sort of re-engineering journalism, not doing exactly the same things, but sort of imitating the end results of journalism. And I mean, this is what you can do. Anybody with some basic insights in Python can do, with a few days of programming. So it's not that. What you need is the structural data. And of course, journalists are right. Publishers, they want automated news to save resources, reduce costs, free reporters from boring tasks, faster, and less prone to errors, scalable. Journalists, they do one story today, and tomorrow the next one. Computer does, 1 million stories today, 1 million tomorrow. So it's, scaling up news production, and it's easy to implement. And actually, multilingual solutions are coming. And this company in Germany, I think they have services in 12 different languages already. While in the US, Data Science and Automated Insights say, we're doing in English, maybe Chinese at some stage. So it's sort of a different context. And yes, it's always indistinguishable from human written news, which, you have this New York Times test where you can see, is this a news piece written by a computer or by a human person, and you get maybe 50-50. So, then why are there still so many jobs in journalism after decades of newsroom automation? I think that's an interesting question. Do you know what was the peak year of journalism employment in the UK in recent years? Can anybody say? No? Any guesses? At least according to the official statistics of a fully employed and part-time employed journalist, it was 2013. So there's still more journalists in the UK now in the post-financial crisis. So that's not the sort of concept we have of journalism occupation in Europe. In the US, it's a different story because many jobs have disappeared. And on the other hand, there are probably more people doing journalism than ever, in some sort of journalism, but they're not fully employed. It's a qualifier of who's a journalist. So it's a definition problem there. And very little likelihood of automation. This is from was it The Guardian, I think, who made sort of a interactive graphics on base of the Frey and Osborne study of which it works. The occupations most prone to automation, and journalists are on the low scale of the low end of the scale, 8% chance for risk. So that's not much. So what is it journalism that makes journalists so important and not besides having all these algorithms in the newsroom? We still have lots of journalism, and I don't think it's the news as an institution, because this is everything. This is something that you can figure out and you can code and codify. But it might be something with the ideology of journalism, which Mark Lewis has sort of defined. And I think what the audience that's why the audience are paying for journalism, because they feel it's a public service in a world with lots of scandals and sort of political things. We need some sort of independent source, autonomous source. And I think the moral and ethical foundation, which we talked about earlier, is sort of one of the prime reasons why people are really interested in journalism. Why people actually, go to journalists, to go to newspapers to find what journalists are doing and sort of get their views. And that's sort of more and more we look at the business models of journalism and news is what Guardian, Financial Times, Nordic newspapers are doing. Quality journalism. So that's sort of having automation is not the answer to the problems that the financial problems that the media has, because automated news are boring, they're sort of banal, there's nothing to engage. But you get them on a personal level, which is probably the only really good sort of reason you have them. So publishers are much more interested in using algorithms and automation to find out what the audience wants. I mean, you have Financial Times with the recently launched Lantern analytics system, Guardian with the Orphan analytics system, a few years old, and this is sort of trying to get into sort of the mode where the digital game industry is when analyzing what people are doing with news. Sort of why do they engage, when do they engage, for what reasons, and try to monetize that. So when in a time where some newspapers actually are planning for a future without revenues from advertisement, user engagement is the thing to look at, and sort of monetize user engagement. And this is what the publishers we've been talking to are sort of mostly interested in, not creating cheap, of course saving resources and creating some sort of automation for news, but that's not the main thing, that's just a supplementary thing for the really central and core value of journalism. And I think that's interesting. Automation is a tool for making journalism more efficient, like AP in New York. 5 minutes? Yes. AP in New York started automation in 2015, and after just a few months of experimenting, they went live, fully automation, and we're happy with that. Journalists are happy because they're relieved of sort of really boring tasks of analyzing earnings reports, which is, if anybody's done that, I mean, all those numbers, 4 earnings seasons a year, 4 to 7 weeks, that's really boring. That's really something you don't want to do. So let the machines do it, and they're happy. So they're using journalists for a few, maybe 15 big companies and doing really in-depth reporting of what we're doing. And again, that's also an answer for publishers. There's really no more low-hanging fruits, because automation has been around for so many years and it's being used, and it's sort of, there's fewer and fewer journalists, but you still need journalists. And automated news probably plays the role of newswire material, so venues for news agencies. So there is an algorithm for journalism, and I think, as Paul said, journalists need to address software issues. Journalists need to be involved in data work. Because as the social construction of technology teaches us, news algorithms are not black boxes, but they're social construction. So journalists need to understand those processes and be able to sort of contribute to writing these algorithms. And with sort of the values that journalism provide. And of course, then in an ideal world, we would have journalists who can re-engineer algorithms and re-engineer the Facebook algorithm and understand what we are provided with and why we are provided with it, and how, to think critical about that. I think that's what Nick has been doing some really valuable work. So there are divergent views. I mean, Chris Hammond says his algorithms will win the Pulitzer Prize in a few years, and others says no way. So it's you don't get one view, you get sort of a variety of views. And this is only the beginning, so we have the sort of deep machine learning, and I'm not going into this, but the future is not that bright for journalists, because we are having learning algorithms that sort of, you just have all the texts and pour it into the bucket, and then out comes news in the form that journalists would write. So I'm not quite sure about the future. Yes, thank you.
Do we have some questions before it's time for the keynote speech?
We'll wait for the keynote then, because it sort of continues, hopefully. So.